Welcome to another BlackBerry Central demo video. I'm Dylan and joined by me today is Shlomi and Tim Book of GSX.com. Today we're going to be talking about the monitor and analytics service from GSX for BlackBerry and the BlackBerry Enterprise service. So Tim, maybe just tell us a little bit about GSX and what this monitor exactly is.
Sure, absolutely. GSX, we are a monitoring and reporting company based out of Geneva, Switzerland. Incorporated in 1996. We've been in the Domino space for that entire length of time, adding the BlackBerry platforms, Exchange platforms, and different collaboration suites throughout the entire stack for both Microsoft and IBM. GSX Monitor and Analyzer, our flagship product here, is a reporting and monitoring tool for all of those platforms. So BES12, the underlying messaging servers, as well as other different collaboration platforms. There's also a reporting web piece called GSX Analyzer, where we do most of our trending and analysis there. It's an agentless solution, so there's no code that's deployed on any BlackBerry or messaging server. It's pretty much plug and play, so it takes about an hour to configure and start retrieving statistics for your environment. GSX Monitor and Analyzer is available in a trial mode from our site at support.gsx.com, and we're always available to be able to assist with that as well.
There's no need to install any software on the server itself?
Correct. No code, no agents that are installed on the servers, and that's really kind of the philosophy of the monitoring. We're doing things remotely from the end user perspective. So it's a little bit more than checking processes are running and ports are available and things like that, which are all important, which we do as well. But it's that end user experience that we're really trying to gather. We're really trying to see if the service that the server is supposed to deliver, email, mobility, collaboration, whatever it is, if that's available to your users.
So kind of SNMP or something like that?
Tons of different protocols. So SNMP, web services, remote PowerShell, NRPC for Domino, really depends upon the platform that you're monitoring.
So as a BES12 subscriber and an enterprise consumer, what does the GSX solution offer to me?
So specifically for the BES12 platforms, right, it's like I had mentioned earlier, that end user kind of real-time perspective and monitoring, okay? Not only just that, but monitoring the entire environment as well. So the Exchange, the Domino, if it's sitting on top of there, and other mobility and collaboration platforms as well. It's full monitoring, both from a performance and availability standpoint as well, with the fully flexible alerting system, lots of different troubleshooting information inside of there. And again, along with performance, it's not just testing availability, but things like latency and actual service delivery that's being given to your end users. Okay, it's multi-platform, so we can monitor for multiple locations. So if you wanted to take a look at the performance that your end users are seeing, again, from different network locations, different offices, from any kind of situation you come up with, you can install GSX in those locations, have that performance and availability be measured, and then all reported into one central reporting dashboard that you can do all of your reports from there.
So what are the, if any, definitive advantages over other MDM vendors?
I'd probably say the biggest things would be that end user scenario-based testing, right? Again, I've said it before, not just service available, server process availability and ports and things like that. Can your servers actually deliver the service that they're contracted to deliver? Also, there's no, agents, there's no extra workload on the server. We're just another user. So every kind of test that we're doing, through active sync synchronization, through remote PowerShell tests, through routing messages in your environment, we're just user X inside your environment. We're also, in my opinion, very easy to install and configure. There's other tools out there that do pretty good jobs, but they take a little bit of time to get configured, time to get installed and kind of working the way you want it to. GSX Monitor and Analyzer is very, very easy to install and configure.
Could you show us a little bit about the analyzer, what it looks like, and what we can do with it?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Let me get my application up here. So do you see my screen now?
Yeah, we can.
So this part here, this is GSX Monitor. This is the monitoring and alerting tool. You've got real-time information here on one dashboard for all of the different environments that we monitor. So, and I've got a demo database here that I've just installed, so it's a little bit messy here, but you can see all the different platforms that we're monitoring. So my BlackBerry servers, I got my BlackBerry 12 cluster, a BlackBerry 5, and some standalone BlackBerry 5. I've got all of my messaging servers, so Exchange 2010, 2013, Domino, Exchange Online as well, and then SharePoint, Quicker, Traveler, URLs and ports, all different platforms on one dashboard here. Okay,
Yeah.
so for the monitoring of the BlackBerry servers here, for BlackBerry 12, I've got the system status here, which is telling me the status of the server as well as the cluster itself. I've got active sync status, so not just that the server is up, but is active sync available and able to be connected to. Similar with SQL, can I log into that database? Is it available? Obviously, if that's not working, BES is probably going to have a problem. And then we're also gathering statistics from there. And then we've got the SRP connection, the connection back to BlackBerry. Okay, all critical pieces of the environment. If I very quickly go into the configuration here, this will show us how we actually connect to the server. So here's a little bit of what we're doing here through SNMP and web services. Database connection, going into the database, checking its availability and grabbing statistics from there. Throughout all of the platforms that we monitor in the tool, you can customize how often you scan the server, when do you send an alert, who do you send the alert to, what the severity of it is. Very flexible alerting system here. So I can say for maybe an individual server alert, email a couple of people, versus a cluster down alert or an entire network alert, I can email everybody and send a page and send a trap to SCOM or something like that. Very flexible here. The active sync status, again, will find out the active sync URLs automatically, log in just like a user's device would. You know, very, very different than just checking for port availability, for example. SQL status, so alert on the SQL and on the database size. Here they're in a cluster, I can't configure them, so I can show you the cluster interface in a second. The SRP status, the connection to BlackBerry. Here's those Windows service monitoring that I was talking about. Again, it is important to do that, but we obviously go above and beyond that. And you can add any critical Windows service that you wanted to. Here, I just have the BES12 core services. Basic disk space monitoring, so connecting to the server and checking on disk space, percentage free or a threshold. Maintenance. We don't run any maintenance on the servers, but you can split your stats with and without maintenance, and you can also suppress alerting during times that you know the servers are going to be down. And then our categorization feature, it's a way to organize and tag the information the way it's sent over to GSX Analyzer, the reporting tool. This way you can split up access to the data based upon these tags that you have. So when we go into the reporting tool, I'll show you that, but I can basically say, you know, maybe Tim has access to servers that are tagged as type of development and location as US, versus Derek who has, you know, access to all servers, and Shalomi who may only have access to EMEA or EU or something like that. Okay, so the premise here is that it's a very flexible kind of categorization and reporting system. Mm-hmm. And then obviously for all the other platforms, we're going to have very, very similar sorts of concepts. So we do support BlackBerry 5, including HA clusters, your Exchange and Domino servers. Very, very important to monitor not only the mobility platform, BES12, but also monitor the underlying messaging server, because there could be things that are going on in either environment that if you're not monitoring both, they could be missed and they could ultimately impact the service that's been delivered. Okay, so very, very quickly, that's the monitoring piece of things. Inside the statistics tab here, if I take a look at my BES statistics, I can get a real-time view of all the information in my environment. I've got some user and device information down here that I can export to CSV and do some reporting on. Inside the graphs section, I'm going to open up the BlackBerry 12 here, and if I open up CPU, for instance, I can get this kind of real-time, point-in-time information. Our reporting tool is going to have much, much more information and going to let you go back further into the reporting period and make a little bit prettier graphs here. But this is kind of our real-time troubleshooting tool, I would say.
Okay.
And then for our scenarios here, so again, that scenario-based testing. Here I've got active sync scenarios configured. Not only checking the active sync availability in the server monitoring, but here I can set up a profile or a configuration that says, perform a task like an end user would do. In this case, I'm resolving a username. So I've got my active sync URL here. I'm logging in with some credentials, and the first step, I'm always going to open a mailbox. Then I can add different actions based upon the kind of test that I could come up with. In this case, I'm resolving a username, but we can create folders, create email messages, resolve usernames, and then do a free busy check. These are all testing the services that would be available to the BlackBerry devices. Obviously, ActiveSync is very, very critical. So if our tests fail, we can't perform these checks, your users are probably going to be impacted by that. Okay? And then I'll have performance and availability information on those different scenarios. So that's the part I was talking about before, where you could possibly have multiple GSX installations out in your network or in your environment that'll give you an idea of not just availability, but performance throughout the entire environment. Because let's say you're at a remote location that has a very high network latency, right? You want to know, and you're gonna know actually that the performance is going to be different than, say, one of your locations that sits next to one of your DCs in the US, let's say, for instance. Okay, so using GSX Monitor, you can get a lot of that information, both performance and availability. Okay. And then, like I'd mentioned, very, very similar for everything else for the other platforms. Specifically for Domino, we're checking through NRPC just like a user would, pending mail and dead mail and agent execution. On the Exchange side of things, pending and retry queues, DAG availability, CAS array availability, also Exchange Online. Okay, all one interface. All of this information is reported and gathered into, and I'm going to flip my screen here. Our Analyzer reporting tool. So let me know if you see that portion.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So this is GSX Analyzer. This is a web-based reporting tool. Just open up your browser and you go to the server's address. All of the information that's gathered by Monitor is sent over at the end of every day, week, and month. And this is where we do our heavy lifting as far as reporting is concerned. Inside of the tool here, you can create different users that have access to those sets of information that I talked about earlier. So here I'm logged in with a super admin ID that I can see everything, but I could create profiles based upon the organizational information and say, again, Tim only has access to these servers and Shalomi only has access to these servers, et cetera, et cetera. Okay. Every user that can log into this database can customize what their dashboard looks like, what gauges and graphs and stats and things like that. I've got my last 10 alerts that are shown down here as well. All real-time information here, except for the statistics. These are going to come over at the end of the collection period, at the end of the month. Okay. I've got my alerts here. So I can always review, besides the alert that's executed in Monitor, someone gets an email or a page or whatever it is, it's always available inside of Analyzer for review. And I can actually put a little bit of workflow on these if I wanted to say this alert has been resolved, this one's in progress, checking this, going to follow up with Tom tomorrow, things like that. I can export those to CSV and PDF as well. Then I've got the statistics, that's everything that we've been gathering here. So all the different active sync scenarios, the Exchange checking, the BlackBerry12 checking, everything from the statistics that we read from the servers to all the statistics that we calculate on a scenario basis. Everything gets shipped over here at the end of every day, week, and month. So I'll plop down to BlackBerry 12. If I had multiple GSX stations with that remote view that I was talking about earlier, you could select those here. Mm-hmm. And you can say, what does the performance to the servers in the DC data center, what does the performance look like from the New York office and the Buffalo office and the Shanghai office, et cetera, et cetera. Okay. What's probably mostly interesting out of these statistics is looking at the trend reports. So I can log in as a user, create a report on demand here. We have a lot of templates inside of here that'll help you get started. You can start with your own or import a configuration. But you basically say, let me pick my statistics here. Let's go down to, we'll do a BlackBerry overview. I think I have one configured already too, but I'll show you the configuration here. It's very, very simple. type of report, where the data come from, pick your platforms, pick your statistics, and pick your servers. You pick your time period. If you're going to send this report off as a one-off here, because I'm doing a manual trend, I could do that under distribution options. And then if I had some templates created for PDFs, I could customize what that report looks like with company logos and headers and footers and title pages and things like that. But I've already got one created here. So if I take a look at it here, I'll pop down into, let's say, my BlackBerry 12 environment here. And this one is a summary of the statistics over time for all servers in the environment. So here's my BlackBerry graph that I have going. Creating things is very simple. New graph, drag my statistic down here. I can multi-select these statistics, drag them against each other. There's a nice forecasting feature that's involved here. So based upon the history of the stat, I can predict out where it's going to go in the future for capacity planning purposes. And then I also have all the reporting. Here's my active sync scenarios, so those tests that we're doing as a user, and then my exchange and my domino reports as well. So once I get the report looking the way I want it to look, I can export these to CSV and PDF, and I've got one configured right here. So here's the default title page with our company logo. Nice table of contents, takes me exactly to where I want to go. So if I scroll down into this information here, now I basically run every statistic here, so it's going to be pretty long, but you get the basic idea. Here's my servers, here's my stats, and then if I selected any graphs, which I think I did in a couple of these, there we're going to see some of the availability statistics here. Okay, very flexible reporting system. Now, the last piece of that, which is kind of one of the coolest pieces, is the environmental health reports. So here we're talking about SLAs and KPIs, right? Mm-hmm. It's one thing to be alerted to a problem in your environment. That's the monitoring piece. It's also the next step, which is very good, is to be able to do your reporting. Take a look at what your stats have been and see if there's any issues, right? But here we are talking about SLAs. I can set up SLAs and performance metrics here, and I can very quickly see if I'm meeting my expectations. So just by quickly glancing at this graph here, I've picked some statistics, and I've said SQL availability. I think RAM utilization, server downtime, SRP status, number of devices, just a whole bunch of information that I can look at, right? Mm-hmm. And I can very, very easily see, are my servers within defined thresholds? Am I in danger of not meeting those thresholds anymore? Now I've gone ahead and customized what these graphs look like. So some of them will change to red at a certain threshold, some will change to yellow at a certain threshold. Some of them are just data points that are just for reference, but I think you get the basic idea here. So, and I'll flip over to, let me see one of my other platforms. I think I might have a nice graph here. So if I click on refresh here, so here's my basic availability graph, right? I just didn't have one configured for BlackBerry 12 off the bat, but it's going to be very similar in concept. I've said my server availability uptime is my SLA, that's by this light yellow background here. I can see which servers are meeting my contracted value and which are not, and which ones are in danger of not meeting it anymore by this yellow connotation here. Okay, and then I've got KPIs or key performance indicators that may impact upon that SLA. So if I look at, let's say this guy, for instance, he's green, he's meeting all of my expectations, right? But I can drill down in here and say, wow, the network availability has not been so great. Server availability index on Domino, not the best. CPU and RAM are starting to creep up there possibly. And look at the disk space, getting out of control. 92% utilization. If I drill down into the specifics of the statistic and the server, I can change the period, see what the history has been on this server for my SLAs and my KPIs. So it's not just to say run a report that says 100% uptime, that's great. But if you're looking at the history of the information, there may be instances where you know, your RAM has been steadily increasing 5% a month or 10% a month or something like that, or its CPU is constantly pegged at 95%. That might be normal in the environment, or it could be an issue that you might want to deal with later on. Okay, but having this information is going to be very, very critical to be able to not only react to problems when they happen inside of Monitor, but also to hopefully prevent them before they become user-facing issues. And that's the whole premise of the alerting piece here. I like to call it, we have the proactive monitoring inside of Monitor, then we've got proactive reporting inside of the GSX Analyzer. Okay, so
Wow.
that's GSX Monitor and Analyzer in a nutshell.
Well,
So,
yeah.
which brings me to the next question. So how quickly can issues be found before impacting end users normally?
Well, again, because we're constantly scanning your servers, we're acting just like an end user. Okay, we're doing all of the typical types of activities they might be doing. So not just server availability and processes and things like that, but opening mailboxes, routing email messages in the environment, connecting through ActiveSync, connecting through Exchange protocols, connecting through Domino protocols. All of those things that we're doing, day and night, 24 hours a day, remotely, just like a user would, alerting you to issues not only in availability but in performance as well. So you could have certain thresholds that say, obviously send me an alert if I can't do a certain task, but I can also say if that task or scenario takes longer than 1.5 seconds to execute, then I want to know about that, because that could be a performance problem in the environment.
Okay.
Okay.
So what's the next for GSX and BlackBerry in regards to monitoring services?
We've been working very closely with BlackBerry in conjunction with the BES12 release, actually. We were approached as one of the preferred monitoring vendors to be included with the BlackBerry 12 software. So we've been working very closely with both of our development teams. We've had various team members on site working closely with the dev team and with the sales team to not only develop the product and see what kinds of features are needed, but also getting feedback from end users, from people that are trialing BES12, from our existing customers that are migrating, gathering feedback and kinds of feature requests to see what's needed both on the BES12 side and also from a monitoring tool as well. We're always looking to provide IT admins with the best tool possible for your mobile environment. So we're working very, very closely with BlackBerry to help provide that.
Awesome.
Great. And when I purchase GSX software, how much technical support do I get? What kind of technical support would I get?
Well, during the trial phase, we have full technical support available to help you get your trial up and running. We actually will sit down with you, usually for a couple of sessions, if not myself, then some of my other technical team, going through the configuration, helping with the installation, kind of getting you started there, right? And then once you become a customer of GSX, you would have a maintenance contract in place that would be full support. So you have both your normal question and answer type things, how do I do this, break fix kind of stuff, and then also emergency support as well, if there was a catastrophic event on the GSX station where your entire monitoring infrastructure is down. So that would be included as part of the software purchase, your maintenance contract. And then again, we also do offer some services based around not just the monitoring that we do, but also some of the platforms that we're monitoring. So everything from like a Kickstart install to help you get the GSX production installed and up and running, to performance tuning and alert review and really performance reviews to see the types of data that you're getting inside of Monitor, review the alerts, kind of go over the information with your administrative staff and make any recommendations that might be needed both on the monitoring side and maybe on the messaging side as well.
And what's a trial like for someone? What does that include? Is it very similar to the actual full version, or is it more of a preview?
The trials are a fully functioning 60-day version. So you would head to the support.gsx.com site. There'll be a link to the GSX Monitor and Analyzer. The current version is 10.12. It's really just a matter of sign into the site, download the software. Usually one of our account managers will contact you and to set up a time for a 1-hour install session. We'll be available to answer questions, help with the install. We usually like to let it run for about a week or two, gather some data, and then we'll have a follow-up call with you to go over the reporting piece of things. So review a little bit of the data that you're gathering, help set up some basic reports, and we're always available to answer any questions along the way during the trial process. But yeah, it's a fully functioning 60-day trial.
Okay.
How many employees are you?
GSX worldwide, I think we're probably in the 60 to 70 range, maybe a little bit less. I lost count. I know we've gotten a lot of new developers recently, and we've got people spread out all over the world. I mean, like I'd mentioned earlier, the headquarters is technically in Geneva, Switzerland. We have a R&D office inside of Nice, France, which is very, very gorgeous. We have offices throughout the U.S., one headquarters in Boston, a couple of remote workers like myself in Buffalo, and we have offices also in the UK and in Shanghai as well.
Okay, and if before a trial, if someone's interested, and might be curious, might have a few questions for you, what's the best way to ask those questions?
You should probably, there's a lot of information on the GSX.com site if you want to take a look at some of the white papers. The full help file is on there if you're really kind of a masochist and want to read through that. But you can always email sales@gsx.com. That'll get to one of our account managers that can reach out and provide any information that might be missing, or you might have any questions about that. Setting up a trial, install time, answering any questions, quoting, licensing, everything, sales@gsx.com.
Okay, great. I definitely appreciate you taking the time, Tim. I know it took us a little while to get set up here, but definitely appreciate the demo, and definitely appreciate it on behalf of the BlackBerryCentral.com readers.
Absolutely, no problem. We really appreciate you taking the time to talk with us.